Hi, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me well. Welcome. I'm joining you from Melbourne, Narm in Australia, where it is 9 a.m. in the morning on Friday, 16th of June. So I'm in the future, but it is still 15th June afternoon or evening, wherever in the United States. I just want to start by acknowledging the Boon Wurrung and Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung peoples of the Kulin Nations on whose land I'm joining you from today. I pay my respects to their elders past and present and emerging, and welcome any First Nations people who are with us today. Here in these places, artists have danced their dances, sung their songs, told their stories, and exchanged knowledges for over 3,000 generations. I am privileged that we're able to do the same. I also want to acknowledge that the exhibition at One Archives and the organizing work of Satrang that we are talking about today takes place on the lands of the Hashiman and Tongva peoples, who in the face of ongoing settler colonialism continue to claim their place and act as stewards of their ancestral lands as they have for the past 8,000 years. I acknowledge the stories, traditions, and living cultures of Native American peoples on this land, and I'm grateful that we can commit to building a brighter future together with them. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the launch, celebration, gathering, building community. I think so many things really to think about of Satrang at 25, Queer South Asian Diasporas in Context, which was an exhibition that took place as part of a larger project last year at the One Archives at the USC Libraries, co-organized by myself and Alexis Bard Johnson. We have quite an agenda with us today. So I think just wanted you to know how we will proceed. I just first want to outline the rules that this is a space of queer community making and celebrating any hate speech or harassment. The event is being recorded, and we do have transcript/closed captioning of the speech, for which I do apologize if there are any minor inaccuracies. I do request that you keep your mics off during the event unless you want to speak, so as to ensure minimal disturbance for our speakers. We will have room for reflections and questions at the end of the program, but our chat box is open throughout for you to leave comments and thoughts at any time. The way we will do it is that we will kind of welcome you, take you through the exhibition, kind of introduce kind of the project from last year. We will have remarks from Supriya from Satrang and Sameep Malik, the director of South Asian American Digital Archive, who are our partners. And then we will kind of have the speakers with us, the four wonderful speakers with us today, who will kind of each have about 10 minutes to talk about something really specific that we will go on much later. I will tell you more about. And then we will kind of end more with reflection, celebration, community thoughts, and also an announcement with Kaya Press Publishing. So on that note, over to you, Lexi. And thank you everyone for joining us.
Thanks so much, Aziz. It's great to be here. Thank you everyone for joining us and everyone who's been on this journey with us thus far and who will continue to be on this journey as we continue this chapter and the next. Before we turn it over to our lovely speakers for today, I thought I might just share a refresher for some probably and an introduction for others, kind of the first iteration of this project, which was a physical exhibition which took place at One Archives and was along our entire mezzanine. And it's the exhibition that Aziz and I co-created, many of whom are speaking today, participated in the events we had. But this just is meant to be a kind of taste overview of what the physical installation was like, and now what you're getting a chance to be able to access on a permanent basis through SAADA's online digital archive. So this is the exhibition and some of the materials. A lot of them will seem familiar when you go check out and explore the online exhibition. But as you can see, we had lots of listening stations, lots of ephemera materials from different archives, collections, individuals who all made this possible. And I think one of the things Supriya and Sameep will probably talk about later, and I think will be a topic of conversation and discussion, is the ability now with its online format to be able to listen to all the audio, which is something that can be a bit more challenging in an in-person installation or exhibition, and something that really excels in a digital format. But here you can see the different subsections, and those will all be explorable through the online website now. And so in addition to, here's a couple images from the opening. Unfortunately, for this launch, we're not together in person, but still feeling that sense of community and belonging and togetherness and creation that we felt at the opening of the exhibition. And through some of our key events, like this is our opening night and getting dressed up and enjoying exploring. We were lucky enough to screen Chutney Popcorn by Nisha Ganatra, and she was in conversation with Mariam Keshavars and Aziz after. We will soon, not yet, have a new interview with Nisha going up on the exhibition, so you'll have to tune back in for that, and we'll definitely send out information when that happens. And we had several events, including one with several poets and Bitter Party, which is a musical band, and then Fatima Asghar, Christine Imperial, and Johnny Randava, several of whom have had major awards since that moment, books published, so check out their work. But we really wanted to bring a cacophony of voices to celebrate the exhibition, and now in this event and its future iterations as well. And here's our gathering there. And last, you're getting a treat. So we had a lot of our speakers, minus not Kareem, but everyone else, at an in-person event. And now you're getting a real treat to hear them speak again about the exhibition 1+ year later in this digital format. So I'll just leave us on this. And that is my little teaser of what we did and intro into what's to come.
And of course, I know that we can't really capture the same spirit of the physical exhibition. It's a very different process, but we really tried to kind of make this very translation with the folks at SAADA and kind of really make a new experience for people. And of course, it's so exciting that there's now a permanent home for this archive and kind of the exhibition that we did kind of within SAADA and searchable there as well. So on that note, I would love to hand it over to Supriya Bharadwaj from Satrang, who has been, I have to say, a brilliant, a silent voice of strength and support in so many ways. So much unseen labor and so much work has been incredible. And I feel like this project would not have been possible without her in so many ways, including getting lots of Haldiram samosas and parathas for me and Lexi, literally, while we were putting together the exhibition. So we were fed on aloo parathas throughout by Supriya while we were interviewing and editing audio. So Supriya, over to you. Supriya, you're muted, so you'd have to unmute.
Thank you for those kind words, Aziz and Lexi. Just watching those images, I'm getting so choked up here. So again, thank you, everyone. Welcome. This moment is a result of so many Satrangis who showed grit, resilience, a need for community and passion to be seen and heard throughout the last 25 years that Satrang has now entered into. This is very humbling to see that our history now will be a part of a greater South Asian experience and that it will not be rewritten or erased. Grateful to SAADA for allowing this permanent space and this inclusion. What Archives, Lexi and Aziz, I'm indebted for life for the possibility that you made this happen. For me personally, this is a labor of love. And I hope that future generations of Satrangis and other queer communities can see and hear these stories and feel empowered and loved. I think if we can just keep that spark of that going, I think it'll be mission accomplished. So with that, I'm just, again, very, very grateful to be here. And thank you everyone for just continuing this spirit of love and community within us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Supriya. Sameep, for those very, very heartfelt words. It's been a pleasure. And Sameep, if I can now welcome you as well to sort of jump in and take us through the experience. And there's a lot to say about Sameep, but I've just been so, we've known each other now for a few years, although we've never met in person, but I think, right? But I'm just so impressed with the work that South Asian American Digital Archive is doing, kind of really community-led grassroots efforts of archiving and organizing, and thinking of the South Asian American experience within the broader national framework and history of the United States, but also for me specifically centering so many voices that I feel like are not heard within the South Asian discourse, both in the home and in the diaspora, including Dalit, working class, Indo-Caribbean, folks living with HIV, queer communities. And there's so much, I think, for me, like as a Pakistani, thinking of Bangladeshi experiences, all these experiences that I feel like, are like marginalized. So I'm really grateful that you guys continue to do that and make a much more inclusive picture of the South Asian diaspora.
Aziz, thank you so much. I'm so touched by your words, truly. And honestly, we started SAADA 15 years ago, really recognizing that stories from our community weren't being collected, weren't being preserved, and weren't being shared. And this is the kind of history that SAADA was started to be able to share. And it's truly such an honor to be able to play a part in the process of ensuring that these such important stories are accessible by everyone. And so I just want to really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Aziz, and thank you, Lexi, and all the members of the Satrang community for giving us the honor and trusting us to be a place to share these stories. And I also want to acknowledge and thank my colleagues at SAADA, Sridevi Sripati, who you can see has been doing the tech for us today, but also who joined SAADA just a couple months ago now, but has obviously already become such an indispensable part of our team, and whose energy towards this project helped to bring it to completion. And my colleague Emmett Huck, who's our archives coordinator at SAADA, who you see here too, who has been helping to process all the archival materials that you'll soon see in the exhibit and online in SAADA. We actually, Aziz, Lexi, and I started this conversation more than a year ago, but Emmett and Sridevi weren't on the SAADA team at that point, and so that's why it's taken this long to get us here today. And I'm so happy that we are, but it's really because of Emmett and Sridevi's efforts that we're able to now share this history through SAADA. So just want to acknowledge and thank them again for that. So with that, I'll ask Sridevi to share her screen, and she'll share the exhibit, which once again is all credit to Aziz and to Lexi and to Asad Ali, who's the artist who helped to create the beautiful artwork that you've seen on the poster and that you see here on the header. And this is the SAADA website, the first panel that you see when you visit the exhibit. And I'll just note the URL for the exhibit is saada.org/Satrang. So you can actually even follow along. It's all live now. It's all there, accessible to everyone. So you can read the introduction that Lexi and Aziz wrote. And then below that, the acknowledgements and credits, the link to the SAADA website, to the Satrang website, more information about Aziz and Lexi. And then above, at the very top of the page, if Sridevi, you navigate back up, you'll see the navigation throughout the exhibit, which you can click through the various panels. And while we tried to capture the spirit of the in-person exhibit that happened at One Archives last year, but of course made modifications to make this easier to navigate and to understand in an online setting. And so then if you click on any of the panels, you'll encounter a little bit of introduction or some text that will share a little bit more about what this panel is about and the story here, and then a variety of images that you can click on and will take you to materials in the archive that are associated with each of them. So you can see that Sridevi clicked on a image of Trikone magazine, and then it takes you to the cover of the magazine in the archive that also includes other associated metadata and links as well to other materials in the archive. If we go back to the exhibit, and Sridevi, you click on the First Encounters tab in the navigation, as Aziz and Lexi mentioned, what's really incredible, and excuse our self-promotion here, getting people to sign up for an email list, but what's really incredible is that not only do you get to see the images and read the text, but you can also listen to audio, and in some of the cases, watch video as well that are associated with the exhibit and with Satrang's history. And so really would just encourage you to explore the archive, to explore the exhibit and the archival materials, and to share, please. And I think that's one of the things that we really hope, and I know this was Lexi and Aziz's intention, was to create not just a permanent home, but one that anyone around the world could access. And so we're so excited to be able to once again play a part in that. So thanks again. And so yeah, just really truly an honor to be part of this.
And I just want to say, I mean, queer time is not linear time, right, at all. But in some way, this exhibition does follow some sort of linear trajectory as we were seeing. So it kind of starts off with Trikone magazine and kind of these early organizing kind of circulations of magazine and print culture from South Asian diasporic frameworks in the 1980s, but then kind of takes us to like the 1990s of Satrang and kind of evolves kind of really into the contemporary. And we do also actually end with like in some way the future. I don't know if Sridevi, if there's a chance, if we could just put up the screen again. I kind of also want to just show like kind of, so last year what we did was we actually interviewed the Satrang board, a current board at that time in 2022. And that's like the last panel, thinking to the future and kind of how they would imagine Satrang at 50. And we also really want to acknowledge, I mean, Lexi and I've been really reflecting on this, that this is capturing a moment in time as well, like, you know, last year. And since then in that year, there's been much political evolution in the US that has been quite distressing, I think, to see and to witness for a lot of queer and trans communities, for diasporic communities, for those thinking of gender and women's rights. So really, we also really think about how these stories keep on continuing to evolve, and these glimpses of moments also about building community under great duress keep on coming back to us. So in that way, I just want to also acknowledge that this is, you know, the work is ongoing. This is not like a major kind of, it's not, like this was a glimpse in a moment in time, is sort of where we were at. Lexi, I don't know if you want to add anything before we go over to our speakers.
No, I think that's well said. It is a moment in time, and I think some of the things, and if you go through the whole exhibition, Aziz and I have tried to put in little notes here and there, just taking kind of almost advantage that we're 1 year later or 1 year post the exhibition. And I think some really amazing things have occurred, such as Aziz and I uncovered, and I think Kareem will talk about this at least in an abstract way, that Mujur night or drag night was a big part of early Satrang kind of organizing. And some of the youngsters of the group didn't even know that about Satrang's own history, and have kind of rejuvenated that tradition, and now have had several instances of that in the past year plus. So there's ways in which this history is ever evolving, and as he says, it's not linear, but those things are getting pulled back in and turned around. And I think trying to capture that and allowing us to be able to participate in real time, kind of chart those evolutions, but also those things that we return to, has been really great. And when we were just reordering some of the information for the online version, we kind of decided to put some of one of the 15th anniversary video from Satrang at the very end. And of course, it's funny because it's not really thinking about the future that's in the past, but there's some kind of themes, and I think Supriya touched on them, but this idea of love and community and caring that remains stalwart and the same throughout. And so thinking about how things change and how other things remain the same, and that being kind of coming through in our exhibition, in this iteration of the exhibition, and what's to come for the future too. And I just want to shout out to you. We said thank you so much, of course, to SAADA, all the participants here, One Archives. Also, Visions and Voices is a sponsor at USC who made the whole archival intimacies possible. And I know at least David is here, but thank you to you guys as well. Without your support, this would not have been possible.
Yeah, and of course, thank you to all the people who are in the archive. Like, we had many hours of video, of audio and video, I guess, because some of it was on Zoom recordings that were edited down, and it's really people from like multi-generational kind of people who were active since the 80s, who sort of, you know, coming from very diverse communities, who kind of trusted us with our stories and their audio archive that is all here in the kind of this now kind of permanent kind of exhibit. And I think as a comprehensive, it tells a really good story, and is of course spaces from where I think new directions can emerge. And so on that note, I really just want to welcome our 4 brilliant speakers today. Kareem Kupchandani, Sheena Malhotra, well, they're all actually, 3 of them are doctors, Dr. Kareem Kupchandani, Dr. Sheena Malhotra, Dr. Devanesh Gupta, and Dilo, who's an incredible performer. And I just first want to I have a little like note that I wrote before I introduce them. And I think it's just kind of, if I have permission to speak it, it just is like kind of thinking of my own relationship to One Archives. So I actually moved, I'm from Pakistan, and I actually moved to LA in 2018. To start an MFA at UC Irvine. And I was actually very lost in LA at that time. And I kind of came across the One Archives within my first month, which of course is, for those who don't know, is the largest repository of LGBTQ materials in the United States. And it became a home for me because in so many ways, and within my first month there, I came across the arrest record of an individual named Baba Singh, who had been incarcerated in 1914 for 5 years in San Quentin jail for crimes against nature. And I had no realization that like what I would say are my people, which is, you know, broader South Asian individuals, but also queer individuals, were even existing in California like 100 years ago. And so it was a profound moment and shift for me in my curatorial practice, where thinking about archives, ancestors, community, and migration became an important thread in my work and in my research. And in some ways, like if queerness first appears in the archive through what we say carcerality, then I keep thinking about what is our inheritance, and how can we think of our history, present, and future in more complex ways. Queer community and kin moves in and out of the shadows, as we know, with silences and disappearances, but it also exists in abundance, as the academic Anjali Arandekar would state. And in this moment of renewed assault on rights of queer and trans communities and the emergent fracturing of communities from South Asia through renewed nationalism. So just as a person who's Pakistani, being deeply aware of how at the moment in South Asia, there is very little opportunity for us to gather and make kinship across borders. I think of the diaspora, but also as a queer imaginary, as being able to transcend time and space and build a way for us to come together, to have community, and to imagine other futures. The archive is full of absences and silences, and so this project feels very personal and political simultaneously. The South Asian experience and other BIPOC organizing efforts in the United States are still not present in mainstream queer archives. And so this project was a means to amend this within the framework of One Archives when I was sort of working there for the last year in 2021 and 2022 with Lexi. Simultaneously, queerness as a form of being and existing within the South Asian diasporic discourse also remains on the margins and is quite excluded from many mainstream narrative. And so, of course, as I said, the brilliant work of SAADA, who have kind of done this inclusive work of centering so many different communities within this experience, as I stated, Dalit, Inter-Caribbean, working class, and more, is so important. And so I think in this way, we're kind of adding like the South Asian experience to the queer archive and the queer experience to the South Asian archive, kind of doing this multi-layered project simultaneously. And I'm very grateful for that work, that we're able to kind of think of history telling and stories in much more fuller and complex way. And I also just want to say that the work is ongoing. The archive is perpetually being created, and there are so many stories and narratives that we have not been able to tell across the world and in the US. And of course, this is just like a moment, and I hope that people can bring other contributions forward. And then it is for this reason, though, to continue to make the archive and make community, that I'm thrilled to bring this constellation, or as Debanuj, my friend, who's one of the speakers, would say, his favorite word, assemblage of thinkers, writers, poets, academics, and organizers who are trailblazers in the South Asian diasporic queer community, organizing to further share their stories and research with us today. Each of them will speak for about 7 to 10 minutes, and we will talk about a range of topics, from nightlife and dancing to magazines and community to home and belonging, and kind of the tension between being diasporic and kind of thinking always of the homeland that you come from. And so it's really like a really brilliant, like they're all great speakers, performers, thinkers. So I'm really excited to see how it unfolds. And I just really want to thank you all for joining us and celebrating us. I will introduce them all now in the order that they will go, just so that there's no disruption. We will start off with Karim Kupchandani, who's an associate professor in theater, dance, and performance studies at Tufts. He's the author of the multiple award-winning book Ishtyle, Accenting Gay Indian Nightlife, and the forthcoming Decolonized Drag. Karim is also the co-editor of Lambda Literary nominated Queer Nightlife and curator of, I love this, like criticalantistudies.com. So we can totally like, you know, check it out as well if you want the website. It's really an amazing repository. Sheena Malhotra, the second speaker, is professor of gender and women's studies at California State University, Northridge. She was a founding director of the Queer Studies program there, which was launched in 2008. And has been serving in that position since 2019 again. She has a PhD in communication studies from University of New Mexico and has diverse work experience in the film and television industry, which also includes work in India. Her academic research focuses on the intersection of gender, media, technology, and global culture. And she served also on the board of Satrang for 5 years, and so has a very personal connection to this archive and loves Bollywood and bougie boarding. And she will, I think, at length speak about like the dance culture as well and kind of nightlife community building within Satrang framework. Debanuj Dasgupta, our third speaker, is an assistant professor of feminist studies at University of California, Santa Barbara. Their research focuses on racialized regulation of space, immigrant detention, queer migration, and global governance of migration, sexuality, and HIV. They serve on the board of political geography of the Geography Compass and are co-chair of the Center for Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Studies. He loves traveling, spending quiet time by herself, and as an avid foodie, and identifies as Koti genderqueer. And finally, Dilo is a queer, transgender, Tamil Sri Lankan American actor, writer, stand-up comic. He created the Coming Home, Coming Out workshop for Satrang that is also within the archive, and which was a very transformative moment at the time for many Satrang attendees. Outside of touring the university and college circuit, his work has been published and or written about in academic journals, literary anthologies, and print online journalism sources. He was also most recently awarded the Artist Disruptor Fellowship for TV writing through the Center for Cultural Performance, as well as a Civic Media Fellowship through USC's Annenberg Innovation Lab, funded by the MacArthur Foundation. So on that note, I don't want to stand in between the way of me and them. So over to Kareem.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. How intimate can an archive be? When I walked up the stairs of the One Archives building to encounter archival intimacies, I found myself breathless. Yes, the stairs were steep and I was out of shape, but that's not what left me trying to find air. It was sheer excitement. Do you know that feeling of seeing a history you didn't know you had lived laid out in front of you? That feeling of witnessing twisted queer Desi humor on the covers of Trikone magazine that had manifested long before Instagram accounts were posting Komalika memes? The archive sent a shock through me. To know that the aesthetics and logics of being queer and brown in diaspora have a genealogy, can be traced and have been shared. This can take your breath away and it can breathe new life into you. I felt sorry for the poor white friend I had brought with me to the exhibit who was trying to explore and taking the material on their own. No, you have to come and look at this. And I would detail and interpret every magazine cover, point out every person I knew, drop every nugget of gossip I had about every image and piece of text. Sometimes my memories and ideas weren't about Satrang, but even seeing Satrang's not-for-profit incorporation papers launched me back in time to my experiences with the very nascent organization Trikone Chicago, as we figured out how to navigate bureaucracy, finances, and structure in 2008. An archive has the potential to pierce you, to make love to you, to know your G-spots and funny bones. And it's like this exhibit knew me. I haven't attended a Satrang event unless you count the invaluable Satrang support for DCQ in 2013 in the Bay Area. But the archive that was assembled that touched on activism, publishing, community, potlucks, performance workshops leaked into my body and toured me through my own experience with queer South Asian life on the East Coast and in the Midwest. It's not that I felt represented. It wasn't a set of good feelings about seeing brown queer people. It wasn't a neatly curated set of DSLR shot Instagram portraits of respectable queer South Asian influencers that appear every year during Pride Month. These were Trikone magazine covers made up of chaotic collages, grainy group photos of Pride parade goers, and under-designed flyers featuring an image and some block text. Rather, I was seeing on display a set of logics, meanings, and styles that felt familiar. They weren't about my political identities, but rather they made sense to me based on how I grew up, moved through the world. This is the way intimacy works, to intertwine and entangle with the body, not simply to reflect it back to you. I didn't have to know these people for their activism and creativity to make sense to me. I didn't have to see myself in the archive to feel like it was part of my own history. But then I saw myself, a purple book spine with yellow text. This was the first time I'd ever seen my book, Ishtael, accenting gay and Indian nightlife out in the world. Sitting on a small shelf with a set of other queer South Asian texts, it was surreal to see my work staged as a companion to this content. Again, I was breathless, this time realizing that my research actually belonged somewhere, had a community it could speak to and a history it could hold. I began researching Ishtael during graduate school in 2008. In the book, I talk about the elusive nature of the South Asian drag queen. It was a challenge of tracking down, and it was the challenge of tracking down and archiving South Asian drag that in fact led me to become a drag queen myself. Lahore, Rajasthan, everyone's favorite overeducated South Asian drag auntie. The myths and lore of drag at queer South Asian diasporic nights is what drew me to research in the first place, but no one seemed to have content to share. YouTube certainly didn't. But many of the people I spoke to during the course of my research insisted that drag was central to making queer Desi community. At one queer Desi gala where Dilo was hosting and DJ Rekha was spinning, I was standing with them both by the DJ booth, and Dilo comments, "What were they thinking not having a drag queen in the lineup?" And Rekha then turns to me and says, "Listen, if I play Salame Ishq, will you dance?" But before I could agree, the bouncer signaled that it was time to cut the music. Drag does so much work for us. It centers the space. It gives the audience a common set of values and styles. It places us in time and helps us time travel. As I put my own book down and kept walking along the exhibit, I am suddenly arrested by drag queens. In a red sari, she sits on the carpeted floor of a home. The kitchen behind her is fluorescently lit, terrible backlighting for a queen. She is surrounded by people of many genders, barefooted on the carpet with her. Dupattas are hung around the space. It's tacky and perfect. Performing to Ram Teri Ganga Meli, she lifts her veil to reveal sunglasses. Everyone cheers for the surprise, even if they perhaps had seen them on her already. And if she managed to slip them on with no one noticing, then I have to say she's a very slick performer. From behind her, she reveals a martini glass, takes a sip, and then sprinkles her Cosmo on the audience with her fingers, a very queer blessing. Despite the lack of theatrical lighting, she is radiant. As she gets up on the floor to dance, she indicts the audience members as the sinners the song lyrics sing of. The polluted river in the song becomes another beverage as she mixes a drink in a martini shaker and pours it into her glass. On a small tablet screen with headphones over my ears, I tune the space of One Archives out and fall into this living room drag performance, funny and stupid and gorgeous all at once. The audience is commenting throughout. They are present and close and intimate. I'm astounded that this video is on display. This is the very kind of archival document I sought when I was beginning my PhD, the kind of document that eluded me, that I had to make for myself. It is a rare find, and I'm blessed to witness it. I take off the headphones and turn to the next tablet and a new soundscape. The queen in all black is performing a 1988 track I'd never heard before, Kahe Sangiya Teri Meri Baat. I didn't know the song, but again, I'm mesmerized. In black and silver, she rolls on the ground, sits up eye to eye with one audience member, rolls again, eye to eye, sings a line, again, roll, look, line. When she stands, she swishes her skirt purposefully over another performer. A playful teasing, the audience laughs. They laugh again when they realize her skirt, already low on her hips, is falling off. The archive can let us witness these moments of intimacy, but we can't know them as they were. The archive won't hold the brush of a lenga on our face or the sprinkle of a Cosmo into our hair. It won't hold the intimacy of eye contact as the performer makes us feel for 1 second like we are the only one who exists. It won't hold those on the other side of the camera who we can't see. The archive is intimate, but it doesn't hold all forms of intimacy. In fact, SAADA won't hold these videos at all. These videos were included in the exhibit with the provision that the exhibit was temporary, but they contain transgressive amateur performances and the faces of performers and audiences not yet ready to be archived. Archiving queer of color life performance theorist Jose Esteban Munoz reminds us, is not only difficult, but dangerous. Because material evidence of where we have been, who we are, and where and how we gather has often been weaponized against us. And so these very gorgeous videos will not live in the exhibit, but are integral to the story we tell. For me, this gap in the archive, the absence of this kind of home-style amateur drag has been even more intimate. It has been an invitation to learn, to watch, witness, and describe, so that even when I can't document for the archive, I can remember with clarity and retell their brilliance. It has also been an invitation to become. So rather than complain about the lack of Desi drag, I can do it and gift it forward, its beauty, rather than lament its absence. In this way, absences in the archive are perhaps its most intimate opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kareem, for that brilliant, poignant, evocative exploration of the archive and your experience as well with the One Archives and with just your journeys as well. Sheena, over to you.
Thank you. So my piece is called Queer Intimacies on the Bollywood Dance Floor. The first time I meet him, let's call him AJ, is on the dance floor of Sanjay's living room. The plush couch and coffee table is pushed to the side with at least 20 people dancing hard, bumping up against each other with abandon and smiling as we gyrate to the Bollywood song blasting through the speakers. It isn't the latest song, but it moves us. Chal chaiya, 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 chaiya. Come, let's walk in the shade, comes the call. And we give the response in unison. Chal chaiya, chaiya, chaiya. We know each repetitive word and verse. We chant the call for the shade that love provides for a lover, ephemeral like a fragrance, whose language is like the poetry of Urdu. Even as I dance with abandon, seeing the song in my mind's eye and imagine myself, hands flung back on a train top, not so different from Shahrukh, I notice AJ. He has a bit of a flamboyance mixed with a pure joy of the dance. He catches my eye and does a step, one with a little jhatka from his hips. I copy him, adding a more masculine shoulder shake to his feminine invitation, and the fit is made. Then I try a different step, and he copies me back. Both of us just a bit tongue-in-cheek, just a bit exaggerated in our mimicry of gendered roles we are subverting, unknowingly beholden to the labor of drag queens that Khubchandani evokes in their discussion of gay nightlife. I'm shy. I'm not out at the time. I'm a respectable professor just emerging from my first queer relationship when I find Satrang. I'm not sure what chemistry is happening on this dance floor, but AJ and I laugh, both in recognition and in half embarrassment at our own performance. He's not out either, but here in the privacy of this queer home, he's free. And here I am too. And from there, a friendship of the body that dances, that is both evocative of sex and romance. Without sex, maybe romance is born. These are the intimacies Berlant speaks of, yes? Queer intimacies that manifest in moments that cannot be classified and filed away, neither romantic nor totally platonic, because we evoke desire and sexuality and the heavenly possibilities of love in a new and exciting exploration. It is the search of my queer Desi self, feeling out a form that feels both playful and as familiar as the heartbeat thumping in my chest. AJ and I introduce ourselves between songs and keep on dancing, seemingly already good friends without almost any words exchanged. Who better to mock the over-the-top Bollywood romantic gestures than a flamboyant gay boy who so sportingly dances with shy, butchy queer girls? Many parties later, when I know him better and we dance, I still cannot tell what demons he's demolishing with each step, but I can feel the defiance in the set of his jaw and a silent demand that I failingly try to meet, knowing even as I do, I will never soothe the humiliations or the desires that may consume him. The club is already shaped by and imbricated in the elsewhere and the everyday, Hoop Chandani says. The humiliations of gay brown lives, of everyday closets, of loaded family expectations and white West Hollywood follow us onto this floor and find an expression in the dance. But still, somewhere between the failure of our romance and the transforming defiance of our desires and dance, we connect. And that connection is what makes Satrang what it is. If performance can function as a productive site for producing theory, as Munoz says, I would theorize that the reversal of the Bollywood heteronormative project which is overtly invested in maintaining fixed gender roles, other than when satirizing hijras is part of the appeal when we dance. Just as important is the appeal of a certain chemistry and romance in the dance. The chemistry of bodies on a dance floor, or the romance of enacting desire through our performances, which is not absent, even though there's no possibility of it ever manifesting in normative terms. In fact, the condition of possibility for that desire to exist is its very impossibility. Perhaps that's what makes it playful and poignantly beautiful, is the fact that it can never be. It also makes it safe. You don't have to worry about the consequences in real life. Yet there's something tragic about that thought as well. I find echoes in the hopelessness of crushes that can never come to be, familiar layers, in that there's also the tragedy that you're going to go home alone at the end of the night. But then there's the dancing with flirty, fluid women. Hello, hello, tu mere touch me rehna. The last line of the verse plays out as she taps me on my shoulder and I act surprised, pretend recoiling as if I'm getting away from her. Her eyes are big and immediately laughing as I reflect the humor in my own exaggerated enactment of surprise at her tap on my shoulder. She is evoking the oversexed auntie beckoning a virile young hero to stay in touch with her. Then both of us laughing are alternatively swinging back and forth, miming finger phones to our ears, to the song's chorus of Hello, Hello. Enjoying the silliness of our impromptu performance, even as I'm now courting her and she playfully shifts to the coy heroine. The simultaneous desire, rejection, and engagement are all performed in code within seconds between relative strangers. And as the song wraps up, we break down laughing and collapse into a bit of a hug. Her name is Zoya and she's my biggest crush to date. Not sure she's straight or queer as we're at a mixed party, but feeling the chemistry arc between us, I take refuge in the safety of the script the performance affords. The fun of the dance is that it can remain homosocial or play with something more. We can flirt without fully naming it. I can wait to see if it will ever manifest elsewhere. Part of the joy in finding Zoya is that she gets the humor of the parody and revels in upending the Bollywood narrative. While some might perform more of a butch femme assignment, with Zoya, the possibility of switching right in the middle of the dance only heightens the heteronormative rupture and produces pleasure in a playful performativity of gender roles. If I make a gesture more feminine, Zoya responds with a masculine move, both completing and disrupting the Bollywood script all at once. And if I revert to the masculine, she will meet me, sometimes as a bro and other times with a hyper-feminine move that cracks us up with its exaggeration and cheeky play on the sexual. It is in these exchanges that mimic Bollywood romancing through dance that the most tantalizing possibilities of a queer intimacy appear. Gender is being turned on its head, as is sexuality. It is a performance of chemistry and romance, twinged with possibility, whether or not it ever manifests, pleasurable and dangerous all at once. The Satrang dance floor maintains Bollywood's hegemony, but also opens up spaces for flirtations and kinships between Desis from all over the South Asian diaspora. Kinships form that may begin as flirtations or chemistry, and which may not have been possible other than in these third spaces, away from nationalist tensions or other differentials of origin. Kareem reminds us, spaces of music and social dance are opportunities for embodied invention, to be more than the sum of our identities, to dance new relations into being. That is what I find over and over in contemplating Satrang through our Bollywood dance gatherings, the importance of treasuring how we dance new relations into being, and in so doing, create an enduring sense of community and kinship. Reflecting on Satrang 25 years in, I'd say that Satrang is the space of shared meals and long afternoons in someone's backyard listening to ghazals as we dissect over and over the latest dyke drama unfolding in our midst. It is organizing to go to Pioneer Boulevard to protest 377 and Prop 8 and Modi. It is Dilo's Coming Out, Coming Home workshop where I first dared to write about my cancer and start naming queer familia as one strategy of survival. Satrang is queer familia. It is working with Manoj and Abhijit on the board to get nonprofit status and the annual push for fundraising at the gala. It is managing non-PC jokes at board retreats. It is Salman transforming into SAADA and mesmerizing us on drag night. It is the frustrations when someone doesn't come through and the camaraderie of pulling off a big event together when they do. It is watching Dilo and Shan's journeys that helps me slowly locate my own unique spot on the genderqueer spectrum. Satrang is a bringing together of my South Asian immigrant experience with my discovery of how to be queer in my intellectual and academic life. At school, I become the first director of the new queer studies program, and out in the world, Satrang is that space of organizing and building community. As queer desis increasingly find each other through social media, or the turnout dwindles at political events, even as we celebrate 25 years of Satrang, we also debate whether there is still a need for Satrang to exist. What purpose does it serve after all if it's not going to be a political force? But actually, isn't its very queer amorphous nature also political, enduring in its undefinition? It shapeshifts to hold space for the journeys of those stepping up to it at different times. Satrang is flirtations and drama and heartbreaks, desi food fests and long chats. Some friendships deepen and some stay on the dance floor. Some people remain in closets, others find their way out slowly, and still others are holding up the signs to make space for all of it. It is political and social. It is a space for brown queerness to dance and storytell and protest and socialize in the midst of white queer hegemonies. Satrang has a lot of failures and fissures, but it is a place where I don't have to leave any part of me at the door. I can be fierce and pendu, dress in my finest, or show up a mess. Because somehow, when the music plays and one of the boys, or maybe a cute girl, pulls me onto the floor, everything feels like it will be all right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sheena. That was just really powerful, and I'm not as eloquent as any of the speakers today. So I'm just gonna hand it over to Devanuj. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Today, I'm joining from Kolkata, India, and it's 5:22 a.m. here, so forgive me. And it is indeed very wonderful to be joining Sheena, Kareem, Dilo, and this community of artists, activists, friends, and lovers who are the beholder of this archive of intimacy. So in that vein, and I'm also going to talk a lot about dancing, since, you know, the funny thing is I'm theorizing about dancing in the nightclub when I turned 50. So when I can't dance as much anymore, I start theorizing it, I guess. Imagine a very hot June evening during the summer of 1999 in Chelsea, Manhattan. The setting of the scene is at the apartment of Devesh Khatu. Devesh has moved from the West Coast for a couple of years to gather experience in Wall Street. 6 of us have gathered at his plush Chelsea apartment to discuss whether or not the South Asian Lesbian and Gay Association, SAADA, should be participating in the upcoming India Day parade. There's Gayatri Gopinath, her long silky hair and slender back peered over Devesh's high chairs. Swati Shah, Surbi Kuke, and Javed Saeed enters the room. Imagine me, if you can, in my long dark curls that I had grown as a rebellion to my conservative Desi Midwestern family. I'm in my mid-20s, fresh out of graduate school, high on queer nation, AIDS activism in India and the Midwest. Why should queers participate in the celebration of nation state, I ask? After all, we are outsiders to the nation. To which we discuss the pros and cons of visibility, queering the India Day March. I reluctantly agreed to marching in the parade. The mood is that of ambivalent participation. That was 1999, 2 years before the attacks on the Twin Towers in Manhattan, and 4 years before the deadly genocide of Muslim communities in Gujarat, India. These incidents changed the relationship that upper caste, professional Indian gays and lesbians had with the Indian and US state. We were forced to confront the racialized past of immigration laws, national security state, how Asians were barred from citizenship, how Indian Muslims, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Middle Eastern, Arab communities had begun to feel waves of Islamophobia since the first Gulf War in the US, and many incidents of bomb scares throughout India in the 90s. And now, this organized genocidal Islamophobia in UK and India, in a sense, the age of innocence was over. Age of Innocence, July 1994, volume number 9, number 3. The issue of Trikone features an image that Kareem has invoked, the image that Sridevi invoked from the exhibition. The issue of Trikone features a young Muslim man looking at oneself at or through the mirror. One can see Shafiq Esaji in a baseball cap, bomber jacket, and what seems like tight denims. In the mirror, in his reflection, he's in a sherwani and a shawl. The title of the cover story is Being Muslim and Gay. The or is X'd in the title, suggesting that being Muslim and gay is not an either or, rather is co-constitutive of each other. A decade later, in 2004, Ian Iqbal Rashid releases his movie, A Touch of Pink, something Rohit Dasgupta and I've written about, in which Jimmy Mistry plays a young Ismaili gay man living in Soho, London with his partner and tormented by the heteronormative, transnational Muslim immigrant family. His mother comes to visit him, forcing him to marry and give in to compulsory heterosexuality. Yet she herself tried to escape the constraints of migrant widowhood. We learned through the course of the movie, Alim's mother had ran away to London after her husband passed away. In order to seek different opportunities. She was stifled by the compulsory heterosexuality and her widowhood. However, as she ran away only to find herself, except in her own words, what she says was, except London didn't want a brown Doris Day, says his mother in a confrontation with Alim. I call this the age of innocence because Alim's geography traverses Mombasa, Kenya to Toronto, Canada, to London, UK, and is laced with racism and xenophobia. Yet Alim and us queer diasporic South Asians are still mired in mother-son Oedipal mirror stage, rehearsing coming out confessions in pages of Trikone magazine, Salga and Shakti support groups. Our bodies jive to Basement Bhangra or Club Kali in London, creating near sonic geographies. Our community comprises of recent professional migrants, graduate students such as I, who can trace the neat location as our origins and sites of arrival as our landing pads, interspersed with the second generation children, young adults of South Asian immigrants, and those moving through Kenya, South Africa, Fiji, and Guyana. This age of innocence is beginning to reckon with our anti-Blackness. Think of Mississippi Masala. And the homophobia of our own communities, of our aunties, uncles, and mothers. Think about Bhaji on the beach. And yet we love our auntie and mothers and fathers as sites of racial and ethnic identification. There is constant father and mother and son and daughter queer coming out drama rehearsed on and off screen. Our innocence is marked with writing about questions of origin and the place of queer desires in relationship with cross-sexed mother-father roles in Desi ghettos of South Hall and Jackson Heights. In thinking about the 1990s and SG's cover image as the age of innocence, I want to suggest that South Asian queer community formations, as I evince it from various Trikone issues, still is looking inward, not fully, mired in tropes of Islam as dangerous for queers, finding freedom in Hindu iconographies, a total erasure of mixed race communities. This age of innocence, after all, was not very innocent. October 1998, volume 13, number 4. Mix and Match, the ups and downs of interracial relationships, features a hunky Devish Khatu. There's a lot of Devish Khatu in this piece. You know, it's very public. Devish knows this. I have a crush on him, but 50 years later. The ups and downs of interracial relationships features a hunky Devish Khatu being fed sticky rice by his East Asian partner. The rice and his nipples and the hunky chest suggest a very gay male South Asian utopic horizon, one that defies the rice-wing gay Desi man and white gay man trope. The Asian sticky rice image is not just that of an interracial couple, rather gestures towards the trans-regional connections between recently formed post-colonial countries of Asia. The migrations of Tamil Hindus from southern Indian Coast to Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Indonesia, and the pre-British continuities between North and East India, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, and Thailand. If this age of innocence was an age of reckoning with our parental figures, it was also an exploration of the interregional geographies that our parents brought along, remapping journeys of indentured South Asian laborers into the Caribbean region, and how the tensions between Black and Brown communities in Guyana, Trinidad, and St. Lucia got imprinted onto our neighborhoods of Bronx, Queens, and Southern LA. How the South Asian immigrants of the 60s to the 80s were escaping political overhauls in Philippines and Hong Kong. Sticky Rice was to become a Pan-Asian project that in the wake of 9/11 was to bring us home to Asian civil rights organizations that set up special registration camps, legal representations for Muslim and Pakistani communities being dragged into detention and FBI raids. The axis of pleasure. I did find myself in a Trikone magazine. Imagine 2002, there is a young Indian boy, tongue-in-cheek, with his African-American lover. This image, I hope my mother never finds it. This image of us is from the sex issue. And this special issue features gay male South Asian sex explorations. The issue prior was the female, the lesbian bisexual issue of sex explorations. This sex gender binary, within which somehow I slipped into, and my article being that of the Mango Kink Boy, Journeys of South Asian Kink Boy, narrates our fantasies and role plays, narrates my elaborate fantasies and role plays within within the queer men of color leather group in newly formed in New York called NYC Black Panthers. Thank you. Acknowledged. This form of desire and intimacy rarely shows up in our archives. I show up as a professor, rarely as the Mango Kink Boy. Imagine 2003, a club in Soho, Manhattan, Sholay party. The flyer announces the theme of this party as access of pleasure, a loud slap on George Bush Jr.'s excess of evil. Bijli and Zena are gyrating on the stage. There is Yalini in her facial makeup. Sandeep Roy is in town from San Francisco for the Sholay party. DJ Ibrahim, DJ Ashu, and Curry Club has paired together to bring Arab, Bhangra, Bollywood, chutney soca music. We dance away our gyrating bodies rubbing against each other, releasing all the tension from being surveilled by the security state. What is this axis of pleasure? And what kind of altered geopolitics do they suggest? Some form of on-the-ground geopolitics, where the vamps and the vixens, the genderqueer butch boy, Dilo's bomber jacket and hip-hop moves, merge with the Dhol Foundation and Ferry Corsten and Bharatnatyam, the chants from Black Lives Matter, our mourning of the killings in Gaza, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, the occupied Northeast, ring through the quiet Pacific beachfront, that's where I live usually, and create reverberations on Gale Face, Sri Lanka, where the trans queer feminists at that time were camping out to Golgotha and hopefully ushering newer kinds of political formations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Debanush, for this very powerful and also complex and critical look at the diaspora and its complicities and also liberation simultaneously. And I just want to say, of course, when I know you were writing this last year when that whole movement in Sri Lanka was happening, and of course we've seen such evolution as well, and inshallah, like more and more kind of activism and organizing. And on that note, I hand it over to Dila, who I also know is reflecting on some of this as well with their own homeland in the diaspora.
Hi, thank you, everyone. It's been so beautiful listening to your recollections and your reflections. Very happy to be here, here on the west side of Los Angeles on Tangva land. This piece is called Navigating This Qualified Privilege. I wrote it in after a trip to Sri Lanka. I think it was 2019 or 2018, but it was kind of using I think that in the early 2000s, there were a lot of poems, and I think still it happens too, but like around identity. And this was sort of a revisit of how I had understood my identities, but through being kind of in touch or in conversation with what was happening there on the island. Navigating this qualified privilege. Queer, transgender, Tamil, Sri Lankan, American artist. 1. Queer from the day I had awareness of it. I am truly becoming more queer, politically, mentally, expressively as I get older, aware of my queerness being able to exist, informed by caste and class and education privilege. But from my birth in Queens, I was a king in a girl child's assignment. I often wondered what would have become me if I was raised in Jaffna, if I was raised in Colombo. Would I have allowed it? Would I have known it? Where would my queerness have taken root inside me? Where would it be denied by me? In Colombo, Being out is for the elite, notwithstanding ramifications, but more so if you're poor, where queer desire is relegated to alleys and dark flats, stopped cars on the roadside, night, comfort between friends, day, touches that hesitantly want to linger. I am queer enough to know the freedoms I have on stolen land, queer on stolen land, free to love than I would be on the island. 2. Transgender. From the day I had awareness of the word, otherwise queer fit just fine. Being trans is the identity I was most shameful of. Being brown and gay and boyish, whatever butch, stud, masculine of center, queer was normal, aligning with the freaks. Queer was community, trans wasn't. When there is no community, there is shame. Transgender, the word meant that I didn't like my female assignment, even if I was feminist, gay, woman of color, stud, boy, as the closest fit. To feminist, I was turning my back on the movement if I identified as male. For myself, I was always daringly becoming the type of masculinity that feminists had always wanted, praying that they would soften to me once they truly saw me. And while I don't care, I have a hard time seeing me. Transgender, transmasculine, we never grow into men. We are not the uncles spitting opinions as facts, trying to solve Sri Lanka's problems. We are drunkles who enjoy the company of women and femmes and queer versions of masculinity in whatever other form. We are aware of the space we take up and the space our sisters wish more of us took up. We are hoping to be invited to baby showers and that our sisters stop doing gender reveal parties. We are yearning for the camaraderie from our Tamil brothers in a shared beer, while we pray that they listen to us while we stand up for our women. Oftentimes, when told to shut up, I hear the word tranny as an unspoken jab. In the Jaffna house, Roshani tells me that she started living as a woman 10 years ago. She tells me that most trans women she knew all came out at that time, May 18th, a marker for queer and trans Tamil and Muslim lives to matter, or at least begin to wonder if they mattered. The war hasn't ended for many. The war hasn't ended for trans and queer folks and their families. They are still displaced, forgotten. No one claims their bodies. No one claims their bodies. No one claims their bodies. 3. Tamil. From before I was born, Tamil after the war. Being raised in Sri Lancaster, we weren't South Indian, no matter what they thought of us, no matter what anyone tells us now. I can't speak it or fluently. I understand it conversationally. When I try to speak it, it's not Anna, Thambi, Mama, Appa, tight and bundled, crass or street. I speak it broken, sawdust blown on people's faces. Them wondering why this masculine person wears nose rings and speaks Tamil soft and feminine. They try not to see the rainbow hues around me. They don't want to be rudely assuming. I want to say, please assume. And I'm still Tamil. No one can take that away. Even if I never utter a word of it. I love my people. I care for my people. And no one can tell me I have no place being Tamil anymore. 4. Sri Lankan. From my ancestry. Before people equated Sri Lankan with the government, before the war, before all the shit that made you sick and scared, I swing between caring and not caring about this island, because as one queer influenced by the Revolutionary Communist Party, it is too much to hold. I wonder about Deva and Nilavali, and Trinko, trick shot to pick up some beers and rambutan, necessities for our 1.5 vacation days. Open moist air sits on the sprouts of my new beard. He shows me where his house is and where it was in 2004. I am his brother. I think of resilience, not the romantic kind, the kind that grows from unwatered, nutrient-depleted soil, out of reach from the sun. I am his brother. He tells me afterwards that he's happy to have met me and hugs me tight, telling me that he thought we the diaspora forgot about him. I tell him that I never forgot about him. Through war, through the tsunami that killed his daughter, through the aid that never came for Tamil people. I don't tell him how I am scared, not for bombs and tsunamis. I am scared of being outed and for being out. And so I don't tell him of being harassed as a gender nonconforming person through all the checkpoints in 2003. I don't tell him now that I'm passing as male, I have the strength and confidence to come back. I don't tell him that with my privileges, I'm working with trans and queer people in the North and Northeast. I don't tell him that I'm scared, not for bombs and tsunamis. I'm scared of rape as an outed trans masculine person with a vagina in Sri Lanka. I do tell him that I am older now and have resources, and I will come as much as I can to be of some service to my community. And I tell the women I meet in the East that I will come back and figure out who is using art as therapy, because I am developing a deeper curiosity about resilience, and I have a lot to learn from and share with my community. Yes, as diaspora. Yes, as an artist. Yes, as a queer. And that was last year, before the bombs in Bati and Colombo. This island can't catch a break, but I can. I am scared of bombs. I stay in America. 5, American. I understood way before I was born, because there was brown around my ass that going to the grocery store was culture shock. I was the first to be born in the States on my upper side, third on my ammas, because we immigrated pre-war. I was Sri Lankan, proud Tamil every day, or on and off. Veg Thursday, Bhajan Friday, Veena Saturday, Bharatanatyam Sunday, Tamil class Wednesday, on and off still everyday Tamil. We all grew up with accents because we learned English from our parents. I was brown. I was loud about it because my community wouldn't shut up about it. I'm not Indian, I don't know Hindi or Bollywood, and not all Sri Lankans are Sinhalese. We are Tamil and Muslim but I was quiet in the closet with Legos and Matchbox cars. I didn't climb trees freely outside open-air Jaffna-styled homes. I was indoors because America didn't have mango trees. They had Joshua trees, sand, and tumbleweeds, neo-Nazis, taking up so much space. Sri Lancaster had no place for anything else but my queer survival. I grew up in the style of immigrant American, learning how to use utensils, navigating, digging myself trenches that served as more closets for my identities, eating with my hand, mastering the fork, picking the left or right roads of my identity to walk with, depending on what day it was or what I had strength for. I exist now, an American artist of Ilangai Tamil descent. I'm a product of a deep love for that island, stories handed to me by my appa, the power of late 80s East Coast hip-hop, handed to me by MTV, the love of other worlds and mythologies given to me by my amma, the nuanced understandings of patriarchy given to me by my anti-capitalist feminist artists of color, the deepest understanding of committed relationships, camaraderie, accomplice-style allyship given to me by my chosen family, United Shades of America. I am also a queer, transgender, Tamil, Sri Lankan American artist. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Those are just incredible. Trying to gather myself after that, even after hearing some of them before, but it's just such an honor to be in such company and community. And I just want to say I'm truly just honored to be part of this project and have it continuing on. I think especially as the curator at One and someone who's really interested in kind of queer history and visual culture and art history and performance and how we tell those histories and what the archive can do, these conversations just bring up so many rich and generative questions. Both the exhibition and making it with Aziz and everyone here did, and today as well, thinking about what can and cannot be captured and where it can be captured, and thinking about how we inherit certain archives, we have to work to make other archives each kind of archive or event, like an exhibition or a book or a performance, can only do so much. But I think with that, Aziz and I are excited to share that this project is going to have a third iteration, which is a book project. So this is something that we've already begun, and we've started thinking about it as well as the online exhibition probably as soon as we started the Archival Intimacies project. But we now have a partner in Kaya Press, and I'll invite Neela in just a moment to come say a few words, but we're really delighted and excited to be continuing this on, knowing that, again, a book can't capture everything, but it can do a lot, and kind of continuing to add and layer to the archive while we continually think about what cannot be captured, the gaps and the fissures, is something that I'm devoted to, and I think everyone here is as well. And so we're really delighted to be putting together this new book project and book that will be out in a couple years time. So see us back here in a year or two. That's kind of the schedule that we're on, but really delighted to share. So Neela, I don't know if you want to come join us on, we'll spotlight you for a moment if you want to kind of just say what it's been like from your perspective to
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm just so excited to be here. I was so excited. I've seen so many friends here in the room with us, and I think it was Asad who connected Aziz to myself, and just coming to the show last year, being able to see everything and meet Aziz and Lexi, and just immediately I went home after meeting with them and seeing the exhibit and all the wonderful energy, and talked to Sun Lee, the publisher of Kaya, and I was like, we got to do this. So I'm so happy to say, a year later, that we're, really moving forward, and can't wait to, actualize this vision and create a book that can hold all of this beautiful energy and these words, and keep it going. So super excited. Keep your eye out, and I'm so excited to collaborate across all of these different worlds that these guys have brought together. So really excited. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's such an honor, because I really feel like, this book has been something that's been in my mind, and I'm so delighted to collaborate. And I just want to share that this book will kind of expand upon this project and kind of try to capture kind of an understanding of the South Asian diasporic experience, centering the US, but also thinking of Canada, UK, and elsewheres, through literature, poetry, academic reflections, interviews, thinking about film. We have already commissioned all the people who presented today. They're all writing or contributing in some way. We also have Natasha Biswanath, who we've commissioned to do an interview with 3 important creative practitioners and artists from the South Asian diaspora: Sunil Gupta, Chitra Ganesh, and Sabila Narasimhan. But there's a lot more that will happen. There will be, it's like a slow burn project that's continuing in the coming year and a half, with also research and archive and thinking. And I'm also very excited that in addition to One Archives and Kaya Press, who are supporting this project, of course, both conceptually but also materially, that we also have some really incredible people who are funding and supporting the project, including Satrang members and people who are part of the community, Sarita Bhatt and Elizabeth Schwartz, and Nisha Ganatra, who of course made Chutney Popcorn and has become a dear friend and a really important I think champion of us, who's really agreed to also support us in so many ways with us manifesting this book. And someone else, other people who don't want to be named, but because of that, we've also been able to fundraise over $10,000, which is really incredible, just to start us off, not including the support that One and Kaya are already giving, to sort of pay speakers, to keep on thinking, to do some research. And if folks are interested, we would love more, but just, it's already such a great honor to have all of this on board. And inshallah, we will have another launch or other events to take that forward sometime in a couple of years, wherever the political and social geography of the world is then, inshallah.